gifting, first of all, it's powerful and impactful for business because people need to feel acknowledged. Clients are human beings, right? And so I think gifts for centuries have simply been a vehicle to show the value we're placing on a relationship.
You're listening to Breakthrough with Coach B, where we help you work less so you can earn and live more. Our mission is to free you from the unnecessary, the repetitive, and the draining, so you can focus on what you love, excel at, and grow your business. Let's dive in. Hey, it's me, Coach B, and in this episode of Breakthrough, we are sitting down in person, might I add, with my longtime friend, Vonny Fast. She is the sharpest person in the real estate business. She is the sales rep that I've known forever from Cutco. If you don't know Cutco, they make amazing, amazing kitchen, and I found out in this interview, garden products that a lot of us in the industry use as client gifts. Now, this isn't just a 60-minute long infomercial about how amazing Cutco is, although it is amazing. I've got a little collection at home that I love using. It's actually more of a conversation about the art and science of gifting. Gifting, as we are probably most familiar with it in the real estate context, is usually on a closing day when we're going to meet our clients, give them the keys and hand them over their gift. Now, some of you listening to this might not even be doing that right now. And if you're not, I would definitely encourage you to level up your gifting on closing experience ASAP. But also we wanted to talk about gifting from the perspective of how it can be used in business development. So how can we use gifting as a strategy to actually generate new clients that we could hand closing gifts to? And then, of course, we looked at this through the breakthrough methodology of like, is it possible to automate or delegate gifting strategy? Or can we work with gifting partners to be able to do gifts on our behalf that still have that same level of impact? And that's what we dive into in this conversation with Vonny. I think you're going to get a lot from it. She's just an awesome, awesome person. She's a great person to get to know. And if you see her at any of the RE/MAX or RRI conferences, I'm sure she does other ones. She's always got a booth there, big smile on her face, and a lot of sharp things that she would love to show you. In this episode, you're going to hear a little bit more about what got her into gifting in the first place. Really fascinating perspective here. When she first started with Cutco, they were not allowed to do any outward marketing. It all had to be boots on the ground. Door-to-door sales, working their relationships, which then eventually led Vonny into an interesting insight. Instead of actually going door-to-door, which we refer to as 2X thinking, what would happen if she started building relationships with other key people of influence, i.e. realtors, which is 10X thinking. So instead of her going to door-to-door to consumers, she started building relationships with agents who already knew those consumers. Vonny also introduced me to a concept that I love. She refers to as practical luxury, why it's such a great formula for gifting that can actually blow clients' socks off when you receive a gift that is both practical and luxurious. And then we're also going to talk about how you can build a client journey that actually builds loyalty with potentially gifts along the way. This is a great conversation with Vonny, and it was actually the first one I've done on this podcast in person in my studio in Victoria. So hopefully you can hear the intimacy and the energy that comes with an in-person conversation. And please enjoy this episode of Breakthrough with Coach B, where we talk to Vonny Fast. Imagine freeing up 10 hours a week to focus on what you love, personally and professionally. Ready to get started? Our free guide walks you through the first step, a resource review to identify where you spend your time, money, and energy. Download it now at bradenwheatcroft.com/review or find the link in our show notes. Let's get you closer to your breakthrough. I guess I'll just start by saying welcome. I don't know if you know this or not, but you're actually the very first in-person podcast interview I've done on this show.
That's crazy because you say that and I realize I don't think I've ever done an in-person podcast either. Like
wow.
I've done them all on Zoom.
It's first times. Yeah. Yes, I love it. Okay.
Wow. Yeah. No, I never even thought of that. But yeah, in-person podcast.
It's funny. Fun. I prefer it so much. I did a podcast project last summer. It was kind of a passion project coming out of my mental health crisis, or as my PR team calls it, my unplanned unraveling. And in every interview, that was one of my priorities for the project, was like every interview had to be in person. And we did do a couple online just because it was just practical, but most of them were in person. And honestly, I prefer it so much. Yeah. It's there's just an intimacy and a connection that you just don't get through a screen.
Totally.
Anyways,
I agree.
I'm very excited to chat with you about our topic today because, if you're familiar with the breakthrough process, the breakthrough method, as we call it, it's really about this belief system that most agents would actually be able to work less than they do,
Yep.
earn more, live more if they could learn the subtle art of letting go,
Right.
which is very, very difficult. Right.
Totally is.
And, I recognize that, when you're entrepreneurial, you wear many hats, and, the idea that the things that you need to do to become successful at maybe level one, maybe it's, level one might be, hey, I finally can consistently crack 6 figures a year.
Right.
And that's an exciting place. But the skills that you use to get to that first level, to get to say the second level, which might be say $250,000 a year, they're different.
Yeah.
Your day-to-day looks different. And so there's that like paradox of success stuff of like what made you successful ends up being the stuff that holds you back.
Totally.
I've built a podcast, a brand, a program all around helping people eliminate, automate, and delegate.
Amazing.
And when I knew you were coming to town, I was like, well, can I somehow find a way to jam this square peg into this round hole? Like, what the hell could Vonny and I talk about that fits the scope of the breakthrough method? And I thought, you know what? Gift giving is a really interesting thing to look at because, I've always sort of admittedly poked fun at some of the gift processes out there. Like there's like the send out cards, which again, for anyone using them, I don't want to throw any shade, but I just laugh at the idea of like, how they call them like personal notes?
Yep.
To me, it's like impersonal notes.
Yep.
I'm
with you.
If I sent my wife a happy birthday card or a happy anniversary card through send out cards.
Written with their handwritten font.
Yes, with their handwritten font.
It's like AI writing your card.
That's right.
Now.
I don't know. And again, I'm like, I really do believe that the magic's in the middle. It's not all good or all bad.
Yeah.
And there's going to be opportunities, I'm sure you'll tell me about, where automation or pre-ordering makes sense.
Yep.
But I was kind of thinking like, is the idea of gift giving even possible to let go of and still give gifts in a meaningful, thoughtful way? And so that's the conversation I want to have.
So excited
does that make
for
sense?
It. Yeah, it totally makes sense. Yeah.
So I'm curious, just as a starting point, do you want to give us just a little bit of your
history?
background?
Yeah, I did think about this because you were kind of asking, you gave me some prep questions. You're like, how did you get into the world of client gifting?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what got you here and why are you still here?
Yeah, what are you doing here?
Yeah, what am I doing here? And actually, that's a great question because I would never have thought. So 32 years ago, so I'll get there pretty quickly here, but I do want to go back in time. So 32 years ago, I started selling Cutco as a first-year university student. Like, I stumbled upon it. I never wanted to be in sales, but like it was going to be this part-time summer job. That's it. I was going to quit after the first summer, and it was just to get resume experience. And we had to build it through referral. That was the only way. And so I started this thing. I was like, okay, this won't be a long-term thing. I'll just kind of start doing it. And I realized how much I actually really enjoyed the connection with people and doing the presentation and all that kind of stuff. And I was showing Cutco, which I didn't really get at the time how great, like now that I look back on it, people that I sold Cutco to for their home. And back then it was selling Cutco for people to their home. It wasn't
consumers.
Yeah, for home, like their knife sets for their kitchen.
Yeah.
Nowhere in anyone's brain with Cutco was this idea of business gifting at the time. Like we didn't even think about that. So I was doing these presentations, and it was actually, even though it was through referral, it was slightly transactional, meaning I would get referred to Mr. and Mrs. Jones. I would go see them and do this great presentation, have this incredible connection, ask for referrals, get lots of referrals. So now I like teach people how to run a referral-based business, but I would get referrals, but it would be on to the next kind of thing. And I wasn't tracking anything. I didn't have a database.
Yeah, you sound like a lot of rookie realtors, honestly,
Totally.
right? You're just trying to pull enough opportunities together to make it through. And the idea of
100%.
organization, it's like, I need survival right now.
That was me. And I was hustling
Yeah.
to get those referrals and those new clients and book them at whatever. And so I was doing this, and then one thing led to another, and I started to realize how much I actually enjoyed this, but I wanted more. Like I was missing the relationship element for myself. And so I started just changing things a little bit. Like I started to keep track. Actually, my first database really was an Excel or whatever spreadsheet. Like I just started tracking my clients and putting systems in place. Like I would gift them. So coming more to that later too, but I would gift more than I needed to.
You'd overgift.
I'd overgift.
You're gift bombing.
Totally. I was giving them more Cutco than necessary to, to close the deal or whatever. Like I just was like over and above, and I would send them a thank you card with a Band-Aid in it after, and I would follow.
With a Band-Aid in it? Is
totally.
That because the knives are so sharp?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was fun.
Yeah.
And so I started keeping in touch with people too and calling them, and when they got their order, right? A happy client call. And then I would go back and offer service a year later and sharpening, which led to more business anyway and more referrals. And so what I realized I was building was, I was like, I want to build something long-term relationship-wise. And so I started creating a relationship-based business basically. And fast forward 5, 10, 15 years, I did that. I created a database of almost 3,000 clients, almost 100% through referral. Many of them I'd seen over and over again. Mm-hmm. And what I started to realize too was they loved their Cutco, by the way, which was great. And so when they were talking about it 15 years later to me, like 10 years later, right, we love our knives. And so I felt so good about what I was doing. And so when Cutco came out with a gifting program specifically for realtors and business owners, I was like, this makes the most sense ever. Yeah. Because not only can I help other business owners gift this long-term thing, mm-hmm. and it's world-class, and I know their clients are going to love it 15 years from now, I can also help other business owners build a relationship-based business, and gifting can be a part of that. So, because I'd realized I'd been doing all that for like 15 years, but I'd never really kind of gotten into the business gifting space. And so then I took it on. I jumped in on the opportunity and I actually asked all my residential clients, my in-home clients, for referrals to realtors. And that's how I started in this industry. And the reason I've stayed 18 years in is because realtors are a good time.
I
really
can
are.
Confirm.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much energy and personality. And I actually really love serving this community and helping them maximize their relationships. That's what I believe in. So
I feel like the realtors are just, it's an incredibly entrepreneurial profession. We are professional problem solvers, and
we are.
The hats. I'm extremely empathetic to the many hats that realtors have to wear, from like even now, like having to learn about video marketing and social media
crazy.
And hook in the first 3 seconds and you got to rehook at this time. I'm just like, I'm taking a TikTok Reels training right now. And I'm like, I actually can't believe this is the stuff that we have to learn. I mean, maybe 20 years ago, we were learning about direct response, call to action stuff.
Sure.
It just feels so much more complex now. So yeah, there's a lot that we have to do on many facets, all the rules, all the regs,
It's always wearing different hats.
Yeah. Which is why this is an audio podcast, because I'm literally wearing a hat right now and I didn't want anyone to see. But that's interesting. And I want to highlight one of the principles I talk about a lot with our agents in our brokerage and our coaching program. Because what you just described to me is a perfect example of 2x versus 10x thinking. And so it's something we talk about a lot. Is like one of the reasons why you try to let go, whether it's eliminate, automate, or delegate, is so you have the bandwidth to spend a little bit more time creatively, kind of, being that innovator in your business. And so to me, Vonny going door to door, selling direct to consumer is a 2x activity. You know your numbers. If I bang on 100 doors, I can get in front of 10 people. If I get in front of 10 people, I sell 1 set of knives. So if I want to sell 10 set of knives, I need to talk to need to bang on 1,000 doors. Like it's you versus the business.
Yeah.
Whereas to me, 10x thinking is like, hey, if I develop these realtor relationships, I don't actually have to knock on the doors of the consumers anymore. They're the ones with the consumers. I can get in front of 10, 20, 30 of their consumers for every one realtor. Like to me, that is a very high leverage thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if you see it that way, but it's just as you're describing it, I'm like, that's a great example of letting go to grow.
Yeah. And even, I've never really framed it in that way, but it's true. Like I can help a realtor help 30 of their clients, right? It's just through one relationship, I can help them impact 10 or 20 or 30 or their, 100%, whatever, I can help them impact. So it's like, one relationship leads to 10 gifts or 100 gifts or 50 gifts if properly nurtured. And that's a really cool 10x way of thinking about it. And also I used to get referred even to realtors one by one by one. And then I was like, well, why don't I present to offices and speak to a group at a time and educate them? And
now you're 10xing.
Yeah, and then I'm 10xing that. And then now I'm like, I've been on, stages in front of 750 realtors. And it's just really crazy. I never would have thought it would get to this point.
Gosh, yeah. And I'm coming up on 10 years working with Rich and Sue Robbins. Yeah. So how long have you been?
I've been, and I actually thought about them as far as relationship building. We might get to that. But 15, I think.
So I've seen you at RI events now for a decade.
Partner with them. And
that's so cool.
Somebody mentioned recently that it was a client of ours, actually, and she was talking to somebody about this. She's like, you have to meet Vonny because Rich and Sue Robbins, they let two sponsors in, CIBC and this lady.
Yeah, and this lady with the knives.
Vonny with the knives.
Yeah. Which is not a person you want to go to the airport with.
Yeah,
I want to avoid traveling with you because I can't imagine what you have to go through.
It's actually very safe.
Is it?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. You're protected the whole time.
I would love to transition to the matter at hand. So, from a 40,000 foot view, if we talk about the art and science of gifting, I'm familiar with Robert Cialdini's work around influence or persuasion, the law of reciprocity, or as Rich would like to say, giving starts the receiving process. I'm curious from your perspective, if someone is maybe relatively new to the idea of gift giving as a way to grow their business. Yeah. I think, just to actually butt in myself here, I think that it's like, gift giving at the end of a transaction, I think is fairly, understood. Like, hey, I've done a thing, I've made some money. Here's my gift to say thank you.
Definitely.
But there's also an entire layer of gifting as a business development strategy. So, could you give us, from your perspective, sort of the 40,000 foot view of the art and science of gift giving?
I love that 40,000 foot view. I would say there's a couple things that come to mind about gifting, and this is, if I can really impact the industry in this way, this is what I want to do, is number one, people absolutely, the power of a gift, not just a possession gift, but gifting throughout the client journey, or even gifting to get access and open doors. Like, gifting, first of all, it's powerful and impactful for business because people need to feel acknowledged. Like, it's a deep human need, and just because they're clients are human beings, right? And so I think gifts for centuries have simply been a vehicle to show the value we're placing on a relationship. So if relationships are our business, which they are, absolutely 100%, they are, gifts become this wicked, brilliant way to honor and acknowledge the relationship, not just at the end of a transaction, but throughout the client journey. And we can break that down as we go. And the other thing that I think gifting can do for a business owner, it's one of the only things that I find totally scalable and tangible. Meaning, so one of my colleagues who actually runs Giftology, which is a great book about the art and science of gifting, my mentor and good friend wrote it, but they just sent out 1,000 ice cream scoops to 1,000 clients on behalf of a company. And so this company is impacting 1,000 incredible relationships in one go. Like, so on my level, maybe with a realtor or team or whatever, that might look like impacting 30 relationships all at once. They're VIPs. We do a surprise and delight gifting campaign, or 100 relationships, or even one relationship, and we nurture that client relationship through gifting. I think my point is when you can combine scalability, tangible gifting throughout a client journey, and continue to acknowledge and appreciate the relationship, it is so powerful for growing a business. And hopefully I can give some stories throughout our conversation about that.
And it's interesting. I just wrote down the word campaigns because you to me, that presents a level of sophistication that I wasn't even thinking about with gifts. Because again, the gifting 101 is someone buys a house, you've made money, you give them a gift. And I think, and again, there's even people who aren't doing that. So let's get everyone on to level one.
Level one, great.
But when you say about like a surprise and delight campaign, I'm going to just like weave here off of our script and ask you, like, what are some examples of campaigns? Like, first of all, what the heck is a surprise and delight campaign?
Funny,
and are
that's
there
my
other
language,
types of off the shelf, Vonny relationship-based business playbooks for gifting? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So I'll tell you a story. somebody that's just done this with us like a couple years ago. So one of my clients, Taylor Hack, you know him.
Heard of him.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's great agent.
Great.
Runs a great top team, like a small group, small team.
Small but
they
mighty.
Kick butt, small but mighty. And I've worked with Taylor a number of years for his gifts. So closing gifts, but mostly they use us for referral gifts to their clients, and we ship the gifts personalized to his clients on behalf of, when they refer, and we build their collection through time. That's another thing. But Taylor called me up a couple of years ago and he's like, Vonny, I want to do something special for my top 5-star reviewers. So let's say a realtor is listening to this and they're like, maybe they're newer in the business. Maybe they don't have 27 5-star reviewers they want to love on or pour into, but maybe they have their top 5 referral sources of all time, or they've got a strategic alliance they want to really love on, pour into that relationship, or they just want to go back and surprise and delight people, like show up with something unexpected. It doesn't have to be knives. It doesn't. We'll talk about, I am biased towards...
Could be scissors. It could be a knife sharpener. No, I think what you're saying is it doesn't have to be Cutco.
It doesn't have to be. I will say...
But it could.
It could. There is a trend I do see, and thankfully we're in that trend of like gifting long-lasting gifts and that don't contribute to environmental weight, like cost or waste, or like sustainable practical luxuries. We'll talk about that. But Taylor, like we put together, he sent us he had 27 people in mind. And so we just, we shipped these gifts to him to hand deliver or to send on, but normally we could just send them direct to the clients with a personalized note. But Taylor sent out 27 on behalf, like we helped execute this gifting campaign for him. And like, according to Taylor, he 10x'd his money in 60 days and he got a 20% referral rate on that, his words, mechanism, on that mechanism.
Yeah, that's exactly, I know that you're talking about Taylor Hack. You couldn't even have to tell me his name if you just described it as, I got from that mechanism.
Yeah, mechanism.
I know who that is.
Yeah, but I guess what's cool is if we can use gifting as a strategy over time to love on our people and pour into certain relationships too. And I mean, gifting 101, great, wonderful. We got to acknowledge and appreciate people at the end of a transaction. Even that can be timed a little differently to maybe surprise people a little bit more. And but yeah, if we can, that's an example of sending something out, again, doesn't have to be Cutco, but to our top relationships. And what that does, it creates meaningful engagement. Sure.
So a couple of the notes I wrote down was the, post-transaction thank you. That's the duh. We know that one. But then you mentioned referral thank you. So I love that. Could you shed a little bit of light on what that system looks like?
Yeah. So how we guide our clients in this, our realtors, is, okay, so let's say, now some of our clients do just give closing gifts. Yeah. And that's great. And they get their Cutco on hand or however they do it. There's a couple different ways we do it. They've got it ready to go. It's signature part of their gift is taken care of. And they gift certain Cutco gifts on closing. Then ideal, we send them a gift tracker, or sometimes people keep track on their own, but we can send them a gift tracker. Some agents are better at this than others of tracking who they give their gifts to.
I think some agents are better at tracking anything than others, for sure. But I'm not a good tracker by nature.
We save them though. We know, I know you guys. I love you guys. And that's why I'm still here, is we just have so many pieces and Cutco to select from that what we try to do is help you build the client's collection through time as they refer.
Well, that's a good example of one of the pillars is like delegate, right? And so if you are, for me, tracking is a draining thing.
It is.
Anything like expense related, bookkeeping, tracking leads, whatever. Like the only thing I seem to enjoy is looking at the performance of marketing. But I still don't do it consistently. It's only whenever I feel I'm in the mood. But I'm like, what was the open rate and click through of this? Or like, how many saves or shares did this get? But it, that's not a business approach. It should probably, if it's important, measure what matters, right? Yep. So for me, thinking like, tracking is really a soul sucking task. Totally. I could delegate that to my gifting partner.
Absolutely.
And depending on who they are and what they do, they actually track it for me.
100%. I mean, we don't know exactly who you give your gifts to, but because you're out there giving it. However, we know exactly what you ordered. We also, if we ship gifts directly to your client for you with a personalized note, we do track all of it. Like we know that you sent 30 quote unquote stage 1 gifts this year, and however many people referred you, and now they're getting the spreader. Thanks for spreading the word. Because, and we have just some stage
Love
1,
me
2.
my spreader. I want you to know I have 2 of them, and I'm disappointed when they're both in the dishwasher.
Totally, right?
It's actually like a cause of conflict in my house.
Oh,
I'll
is
be
it?
like to my wife,
sadly.
I'm like, that
Rarely.
one of these has to be cleaned at all times, right? Yeah. Anyways.
Mental note.
Yeah.
Get
mental note.
Braden
Yeah.
a
third spreader.
Yeah. But I think that it's really cool to actually have a gift that you can build on, literally. And it's not just Cutco. You could do this with beautifully locally made or like really high-end wine glasses or glasses that you can build a collection, like I think, or custom boards, maybe there's different sizes. Cutco we can build on. Like I think it helps eliminate the, what do I get them this time?
Yeah.
Like, and I think what we're trying to do is like agents become the bottleneck, which is what you're all about eliminating. We become the bottleneck. And if we risk not acknowledging people sometimes if we have to run around and try to figure it out every single time. And so then we get bogged down, we become the bottleneck, and we end up at like Marshall's or HomeSense, we're with a bottle of wine, we're like, do they like red, white?
Yeah.
Do they even drink? And then,
then it's when you walk out with the rosé because you're like, it's
I
either
don't
or,
know.
I don't know.
Yeah. And you're just hoping, are they gluten free? And you're trying to figure that out, but it just takes a lot of bandwidth and mental energy. And I think if we can eliminate some of that and just really help you gift in a beautiful way, that's
consistency, but also
thoughtful
quality for sure.
Yeah.
I love that. So the referral campaign, obviously that's triggered from a referral comes in. How would an agent let you know? Like, is it as casual as I text you? Do I have to fill out a form? Like, what does that look like?
A couple different ways we do it. So I would say 80% of our agents we take a best guess of how many gifts, closing and referral gifts they might use over the next year. And for some of our clients, we actually ship that inventory to you up front. So you have it on hand, ready to go, custom engraved, maybe a very subtle brand or with gratitude or welcome home. You got some spreaders. Thanks for spreading the word. Like just some things that are really subtle on hand. You've got the signature part kind of taken care of. You've got your closing gifts and referral gifts on hand. So then you are empowered to just grab this and go and give it, add some local goods, whether it's a closing gift or referral gift. If we're shipping, so probably about 20% of our agents, we ship gifts for them. So we have a shared Google Doc tracker thing that they'll just they actually typically will then still pre-order kind of best guess. And if an agent's new, we'll just guide them with what are your numbers? What are your goals? What are your, you don't have numbers necessarily yet, but let's just get you a very small inventory.
It's like Cutco consulting, business consulting. I love this. I'm like, I need to jump on a call and have you ask me these questions.
My God. One of my colleagues used to charge thousands of dollars for consultation on gifting. And I don't, but it's really kind of fun. But we shared Google Doc.
Yeah.
And so for example, Taylor and his team, I think it's his admin person that will just, when a referral comes in, they will just fill out on the form, we need this referral gift. We need it sent here with this letter, and it's personalized and printed and given with the gift. And we just execute on that. We pull it out of Taylor's inventory.
Right.
Yeah. And you don't have to have a huge inventory. It can just be a small amount to start. But it's cool when you have systems, you don't miss the opportunity to be generous and value people.
So am I complete then with the closing gift, the referral gift, and then the surprise and delight? I love that as an idea, just the
your VIPs.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything else from what you see from a gifting campaign side of things?
I could talk about the client journey quick.
Sure, let's do that, because I also want to talk a little bit about what are you seeing trends-wise in 2025 as far as gifting goes, but go ahead, please.
Yeah, actually, maybe this ties into trends. I think there's, at least from my seat, I see a little less towards, which is great, I see a little less towards the epic, it doesn't have to be expensive and it doesn't have to be epic. Thoughtful doesn't have to be crazy. Or overdone. I'm seeing, at least from my seat, instead of this basket with a whole bunch of filler and indiscriminate items on closing day, and then
shots fired.
See you later. I do see some agents trying to put everything that they've learned about the client in there. I'm like, just hold back, guys. Like, definitely give them something thoughtful. And we could talk about, some of the trends there, but then hold back a little bit. And like, why don't we drip out gifts along the client journey? So one thing I recommend to people is the possession gift. Definitely, if you can't do it any other time, gift it on possession, like whatever you're gifting. But if you can do something when conditions come off, send them a little bottle of champagne. On closing day, show up with pizza or some things they need for the day. 30 days later, you go with your Cutco gift or your custom board or something long-lasting that's universal but not generic, like really thoughtful. You curated it in advance. And then, just do little touches along the client journey. Like first year anniversary, I think, is one of these things that just gets, you can now set it in your CRM, like, it's time to like send a first year anniversary.
The house anniversary. Yeah, house
anniversary. Like send a, we do these hard case sheaths for the knife they gave, or knife or two. So it's like, hey, we got you covered in real estate. I'm always there for you. Like really kind of little touch.
So I have to ask, is it like, are dad jokes a requirement? Like, is that a law that like the funny puns have to be like, otherwise don't bother? Spread the
sharpest word. Clients in town.
Yeah, sharpest lady in the business. Like I feel like I miss my calling, Vonny.
Could you keep going with those? It's wonderful for me to hear.
You've made it this far, which means you're ready for your next breakthrough. If you're tired of trying to figure it out all on your own, let me guide you. Join the waitlist for our next Breakthrough Academy, a 6-week virtual group coaching program where I'll teach you our proven breakthrough method. With live lessons, expert guests, and a cohort of like-minded agents, you'll learn to work less and earn and live more. Visit bradenweecroft.com/academy or find the link in our show notes. Don't wait. Your breakthrough is just around the corner.
I tell you, I've been introduced as a speaker of like the sharpest tool in the shed. I'm like, oh no, I should have prepped them.
I'm not going to call you a tool. I'm going to say you're the sharpest person in real estate. That's for sure.
Right. I definitely think, you got to have, it's fun. It depends on your relationship with your clients, but
I think it depends on your personality.
Thanks for carving out time is so incredible for accessing and like with the knife. Just super fun. Like you can be.
Yeah.
Prerequisite, I would say, for sure.
So you mentioned thoughtful, like we're talking about trends for 2025. You mentioned, thoughtful, epic doesn't, impactful doesn't need to be epic, right? There's our soundbite.
Yep.
And that it's personalized. I'm hearing you talk a little bit about things that have staying power.
Yep.
So, I'm probably not going to order 57,000 things from Alibaba necessarily, although maybe I will. Again, I think there's probably a portfolio approach to gifting.
Could be.
What else are you seeing in 2025, whether it's within the Cutco universe or outside that's really got your attention?
Yeah. Again, I'm biased because I'm from my seat. What I see, I see a couple things. I see, number one, there is more of a desire, thankfully, to streamline and systemize this. I think more at least I have people coming to me weekly I've not even been referred to them. They've heard about us and they're like, we need this off our plate and we want to do it thoughtfully. We want to do it with Cutco in my case, but how can we do this where, there's a streamlining desire, which I'm seeing. So that's good. And so I'm seeing a lot of people getting the signature parts of the gift taken care of on the front end. So a good example of this is Kathy Thirsk. She's one of our clients. She does about 80 deals a year, I think. And she has a virtual assistant, but she's pretty solo. She's actually the epitome, I think, of where this is trending. At least what I see is she pre-orders. She doesn't have a huge inventory. You don't have to like thousands and thousands of dollars.
You don't have to marry
tens of
Kay
thousands.
Your garage to get the pink BMW or
right.
whatever. Yeah,
exactly. She's got a closing gift room, granted. Most of my clients have a closing gift shelf, but she has her Cutco there.
Yeah.
Just beautifully custom engraved. She's got her coffee bags from a local roastery. She's got candles from a local candle company, some beautiful tea towels. So she's got some signature things taken care of in advance. And then she's one of the most thoughtful, generous, and personal people I know. She'll grab those things, she'll put them together. And then because her closing gifts and referral gifts are somewhat streamlined, it, I think, frees you up to add those little personal touches because you're more mentally, you're not like, what do I even start with?
Yeah.
You've got some signature things. So I'm seeing that. And I'm also seeing a trend towards what...
Could we just stop there for a second? Because I think what I want to highlight, what I love about that is the idea that it's done is better than perfect. And so for a lot of people, they would have no gift room or gift shelf.
Yeah.
And they would find themselves pacing the aisles of their local mall or boutique retailer or whatnot. And sometimes you just don't have the time. And so to have a baseline of really like to me, that would be probably for my own business. It's like, I'd have to be proud of giving the pre-purchased items as is.
Yeah.
And if I have the time, then absolutely I will go and find and try to personalize it. But I think where a lot of us get stuck is we're trying to hit the perfect personalized gift from the beginning. And every single opportunity is a brand new thought process.
Yeah. And
then the result is we now have like 5, gifts backed up that we haven't bought yet. There's all this mental load. What am I going to get these people? So I love the idea of having on-hand items that you're proud to give.
Yes.
And if you have the bandwidth, also personalize it. To me, that's a sustainable system.
Yeah.
Because I find for a lot of agents, I fall into this trap all the time.
Yep.
We see either what other people are doing or we get this idea and it's like a 10 out of 10, but we're actually right now standing at 1 out of 10.
Yeah.
And we're trying to bridge the gap, but it's just too big of a gap to bridge. So why don't we go like, if you're at a 1 out of 10 on your how you value your gift giving or the pride you have in your gift giving, what would a 3 look like?
Right.
Let's raise the floor of our baseline. And every once in a while, if you have the wherewithal to knock out a 10 out of 10, good.
Yeah.
Right. But to me, that's that like one of my personal sayings. I say this to our marketing team all the time. It's like never perfect, always perfecting.
Such a good point.
Right. Like I'm never going to have the perfect gift.
No, you're
not. But I'm always going to be tinkering. And if my gift's a little bit better today than it was 6 months ago, that's progress.
Perfect. Yeah. And it's even hard to find the perfect gift for like your partner. Like it's just,
I mean, perfection is subjective after all too, right?
Totally, right? But I agree with you. And actually that leads me to, there's a trend I see towards universal, not generic, meaning it's something that people for the most part can use there. And along with this, practical luxuries that a lot of people would actually love to have, but don't necessarily go out and buy for themselves. Like we have, we all want high-end stuff. I think most of us do. Maybe I'm a little more bougie now, but most of us want like good quality stuff, but sometimes you just don't go out and get it for yourself, like a $200 night. Or I had a guy a couple days ago, he's like scissors. He gives Cutco scissors and great. He's like, nobody goes out and buys themselves, $100, $175 scissors and great. Like, I'm going to gift that because it's one of those things that people will actually use daily. So the sustainable, universal, not generic, and practical luxury. Yeah. That definitely a trend there. So whether it's beautiful charcuterie or custom boards or I'm sure there's other examples. I've
worked with an agent that has a lot of developer clients and it sounds crazy when you say it out loud, but when I think that the threshold's like $100,000 in revenue, they buy the client a Rolex. And you're like, wow. I don't know that that's necessarily practical because the time on my iPhone's actually more accurate than the Rolex. And that's coming from, I'm a watch nerd. I love watches. Yeah. But to me, that is one of those gifts where, to me, that's actually, you've just highlighted that for me. It's like, that's actually a core tenet of a great gift for someone buying me something, which is, and everyone please pay attention to this, write this down. If you're driving, pull over. It's something that like you want, but you just probably wouldn't buy yourself. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's such a cool thing. Like, for example, I mean, our air conditioning just broke during our first heat wave of the summer. Perfect timing. 3 days before the first heat wave, our AC decided to crap out for like 6 days. And so I was like in desperate need of a fan. So I went out and bought a couple fans. Yeah. And I splurged on one of those Dyson fans because I was so desperate. For some reprieve from the heat that I'm like, I will spend $400 on. I mean, I told my wife it was $200, but
sure.
She doesn't listen to the show.
As you do.
That was the first payment, hon. The second one is $200. It's installments. But anyways, I feel like, just as an example, a
Mhm.
Dyson fan, most people would probably look at that at Best Buy or London Drugs or Canadian Tire and see it next to the other
Pass over that.
$100 fans and be like, is it really 4 times better than and like you maybe just would be easy to rationalize not
Yep.
buying it.
Right.
That to me is and then, even knives, like I'm a home cook, cooking is very therapeutic for me. I gravitate towards my one Cutco chopper truthfully, like I have a knife block of is it Henkel's or something like that? Really nice knives. We've had them for years.
Sure.
But I always grab my one Cutco chopper guy, and it works so well, and I love it.
Yeah.
But if I saw it on the shelf for $500, I don't know that I would.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, what else could I spend this money on?
Totally. Yeah.
Right. So I think that for me anyways is a principle. It's like, what's something that someone would want, appreciate, has utility, but they just probably couldn't justify pulling the trigger themselves.
Agreed. So we call that practical luxury.
Practical
what
luxury.
Would people love to have, but maybe, and knives do fit the bill. Again, this is not just about Cutco, but there's some other, like just those things that people may not spend the money on for themselves. It's funny. And it just maybe sometimes those universal, like everyday things, but they're just a higher end. Like if you are going to get, now people can go buy Yetis everywhere.
Oh my gosh. Yetis have become the new gift currency.
I know.
I'm literally drinking out of one from my friends, coaching clients of mine, Good Story team out in Ottawa.
Totally.
Leo and Jen, and I use this all the time, but I'm like, oh my gosh, the amount of Yetis. Yeah,
it's amazing. And it used to be a thing that people couldn't get just anywhere, which was made it, I think, an extra special gift too, that people, it was quite exclusive. But again, that's an example of I think you want to be perceived as a good brand, like a high quality brand. So give a high quality gift. Like if you're going to give a mug, give the Yeti, give best in class.
Yeah.
And those are typically the things people don't go out and buy for themselves, even though they are probably using a mug or a knife or a cutting board every freaking day.
Yeah.
Right. So those are the trends.
I love
for sure that I see.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Just going to riff on that a little bit.
Sure.
That one of my personal favorite gifts to give people is their time back. Oh. And that's going to sound a little self-serving given the whole breakthrough method and our program. But even as a realtor, that was one of my favorite things is, to me, the amount of times on closing day that I would arrive to a house that was, and people can't hear my air quotes, but I'm air quoting right now, cleaned.
Yeah.
And then you'd move in. And I think there's a difference between you cleaning your own house you've lived in for 20 years versus you've been in your new home for 20 minutes and you're dealing with the other person's version of clean.
Oh,
the delta between the two is wide.
Yeah.
And so instead of panic calling the house cleaners to try to save the day, which was always stressful, I just rolled that into part of my appreciation program, which would be, hey, I've pre-booked, you fill in the blank, 2 hours, 4 hours of the cleaners. But then something interesting happened because this was a program that was working really well. My clients really loved it. I'd get the home cleaners to go in and they'd, attack the bathrooms and the kitchens because those are usually the ick spots, right?
Yeah.
And then it's, you can keep them on. Sorry, you can keep them on for the rest of the day if you want. They actually give my clients a preferred rate, yada, yada, yada.
Cool.
But then one client one day said, hey, we are in a rush to move out of our other house. Do you mind sending the cleaners to clean up the house we're moving out of instead of the home we're moving into? Because we're actually going to tear up the carpet day one. We're going to do some painting and all that. And I thought, well, I don't care. I'm paying for the 4 hours either way. So I sent them to the other house and I thought, this is interesting because I thought about the last couple times I've moved and it's funny. You might be the kind of people that are like, shoes off in the house, everyone. You're really particular. But on your move out day, you're like gumboots on, ripping things through. You don't give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
And it's just, and I thought, wow, yeah, I think you fall out of out of love with your house the second you're moving into another house. If only relationships were like that, right? But no.
Yep.
And so I realized, you've loved your condo for 6 years, but now that you're moving into a townhouse, you're like, I'm so over my condo.
I'm so ready for
I don't want to go back there.
Yeah.
And so I started offering my clients, would you prefer to have the cleaners go to your new home or go to your other one? It wasn't quite 50-50, but 40% of my clients chose to have their home they're moving out of. And that's what kind of got me thinking about this idea of like people value their time. We're all so busy.
Sure.
We all have competing priorities. And if I can do something that was going to give you your time back, that even though it doesn't have the staying power of a gift, I think there's an appreciation level that goes with it.
Yeah.
Right.
100%. What a beautiful touch for people.
Yeah, it was great. And then the other tenet of gifting I always look at is experiences.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to be able to give a great experience to somebody.
Yeah.
So, you know, I would say that's probably my holy trinity of gifting is I'm now using that practical luxury.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Giving an experience.
Yeah.
And then giving people their time back. That's kind of my trifecta.
And you can
of gifting.
do that. You don't have to do that all at once either. You can do that throughout.
Spread it out.
Yeah, spread it out. There's a phrase like extend the thank you. And I think the practical luxury too, if it can be long lasting and sustainable and not wasteful, like I think not only does, you know, every time the client used the gift you gave them think of you, so it's commemorative of the experience, you've got something. I think a lot more people don't want more stuff, like per se. Like we just, we want, you know, we have millennials and Gen Zs buying their first condos and homes. Like they want no waste. Like, so I think that long lasting element too is really good. Power. But I love the Trinity, the holy gifting Trinity.
We're getting tattoos after this, Vonny. Let's go get it. We're committing.
Yeah, absolutely. I see it now.
Oh, that's okay. Cancel your spa weekend. We're getting tats. Yeah. I love that. Well, we are in the home stretch. You're actually hosting an event right after this interview, and I'm going to have people right on the other side of this wall. So
cool.
We should probably keep it on the rails here. So. Really the meat of the conversation that I want to get to. So, you know, we've talked about the elimination of the unnecessary, the automating of the repetitive, and the delegating of the draining. Those are the three pillars of our program.
Yep.
From a gift giving perspective, let's start with eliminate. Are there gifts out there that you see people doing, or gifting methods or styles of gifts or anything like that where you're like, you know what? It's not worth it. It's not moving the needle. Just because you've always done it doesn't mean you should keep doing it. Is there anything that comes to mind in that bucket?
Yeah, I think that, and not to say, like, I think if you're doing something, if you're giving, I don't think there's a lot of wrong answers here, but I also don't think you need to put all your quote unquote eggs in the closing gift basket anymore. Like, I think it's a lot of pressure to run around trying to figure it out. And, you know, the big basket with the filler and indiscriminate items is kind of, I see trending a little, hopefully, away in the sense, not to say you can't curate some local goods and put your signature part of the gift in there and message it beautifully, but I think we're getting away. I don't think you need to do that necessarily. Space things out along the client journey, take a breather, take a breath. I mean, you know, gift along the client journey, like what we were talking about. I see also like, I don't know, this is something that's easy for agents, but maybe it hasn't run its course because I think there's a time and place for a gift card, but it's, I don't know. I see it kind of just like people are sort of like knowing how little gift cards get used. Like, I don't know. The advantage is that's easy to just grab one, right? Yeah. But my wife, for example, like she sees a gift card as a homework assignment. Like, nobody should ever give my wife a gift card because she's like, oh, now I got to go to that place.
And heaven forbid it's a 25. My favorite's the $25 gift card to the place that everything starts at $100. Totally. You're like, oh, okay, thanks for putting me more in debt.
I know. Or the $100 gift card to the keg or home. It doesn't buy you dinner anymore. So what I would say is like, if you're going to elevate someone's experience instead, maybe send them happy hour gift cards so they can get their cocktails.
Speaking of Hack Attack, Taylor Hack taught me this one years ago. And actually it's funny. I'm doing all the name dropping today. I actually heard about this before I had ever met Taylor from Chris Cummins, who's one of the speakers for RI, and he was telling a Taylor Hack story, a mechanism maybe. Anyways, about how like partnering with a local restaurant
that's a good one.
Needs business. They don't have the marketing department of a Cactus Club or Browns or whatever, or the Keg, and have them call your clients, invite them out, invoice you once. I used to do that with the Westwood Tennis Club. And we literally just got an order under the door of my office. It says, did you order Romeo's Hawaiian and veggie?
Yeah, we have pizza coming.
We have pizza coming. So I'm wondering if we write on that and slide it back under the door, will anyone be there done? What will happen? I've never been communicated through a piece of paper sliding under my
That's
office door
beauty
before.
of in-person podcasts.
Yeah, no kidding. That's hilarious.
Funny.
So
I don't even know where you were
yeah,
at.
where was I there? Yes, but having the restaurant call my clients and say, hey, because of this referral, Braden would like to invite you and your wife out for dinner for two. Like, there's no dollar amount.
Yeah.
And that sounds scary at first because it feels like a blank check, but honestly, especially in Canada, it's amazing how the amount of time people were like, oh, we'll pay for our own drinks, or we'll get our own dessert or whatever. And then every once in a while you get a bill from Vonny and her wife, and you're like, whoa, they went for it. But then, like, what are they talking about with all their friends and family?
Yeah.
It's an experience.
Exactly.
If you want to be remarkable, you got to give people something to remark about.
Got to pour into those relationships. Absolutely, in different ways.
So let's, we're now entering in the lightning round. On an automation, there isn't actually a sound effect for this. I've never done lightning round, but I've never done this in person either. So let's go, boom, 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 boom.
Okay, let's do it.
That's just because I'm aware pizza's coming and I'm hungry. So when it comes to automation, from your perspective, where's the opportunities to embrace some automation in gift giving?
I think you can definitely hire a gifting agency. You can hire a client care manager to help. Mm-hmm. Like, there's certain things that we've also automated in our system. Like, I think having gifts on hand is, like, it's not quote unquote automation per se, or having a gifting company like, send out your gifts for you with a personalized note. Those are levels of automation. But like, even I just hired an extra person for 15 hours a week. She's my new client care manager, and we are automating something called the All About You form.
Oh my gosh, someone just took the paper.
Good.
That's awesome. Oh, that's hilarious. But, message received. They better not send me a reply. Yeah, did you get enough for the staff? What?
That's awesome. I'm like, I hope the pizza's here.
Yeah.
It's obviously here. But we're automating something called the All About You form.
Yeah.
Is where we get to know a little bit more about our clients' favorite treats and different things they like. So that could be automated without my new client care manager, but it's really cool to get a lot of different things about what, and then my client care manager is actually, executing on sending people their favorite little treats here and there, totally random, surprise and delight. So I think
love that.
I think
a couple I might throw into the fray, and
please,
I kind of didn't give you the lifeline here, but like in our automation section, we talk about automation's cousin, which is semi-automation, and that's where checklists live. Okay. Right. And so for me, like, automation, often people think of it as, AI and technology, and it certainly can do that. I heard an interesting, this feels labor intensive right now, but somebody told me that they've been finding their client's Facebook, scraping the data manually, putting it into AI, and then asking it to come up with gift ideas. I'm sure there's going to be an app that will do that without you having to copy and paste somebody's feed. But I'm like, well, what a cool, what a cool use of tech. But even just a simple checklist. You talked about the Google Sheet. Is there anything that comes to mind on the system side of it?
So yes, the Google Doc, if you've got, if you're sending out, the tracker, things like that. I had a thought and then it escaped me. Say the question.
No, that's okay. So we're talking about semi-automation versus full automation. So checklists and systems for gift giving. If I was a new realtor and I came to you and said, hey, Coach Vonny, I want to embrace gift giving, but I want to be organized about it. What would you like? What sort of system or checklist do I need in place to do that?
Yeah, I would say map out the client journey, which is not hard to do. I think, like, when conditions come off, like, maybe it does start with like that 1 out of 10 goes to 3 out of 10. You are gifting on possession date, or 2 weeks later, or 30 days later, or hey, if you're
a bit of both,
and maybe you get some gifts on hand that's semi-automated, whatever. You've got some beautiful practical luxuries. You've got that part taken care of. Maybe then you start to go, okay, when conditions come off, what's my system there? Mm-hmm. Do I just send a handwritten card with a bottle of champagne? Do I have someone else execute that? Do I do that? Just handwritten cards sometimes goes miles. And then, map out like 90 days later, do I give a call? It's not a gift, but it is a gift of your time. And then first year anniversary, what do I want to do there? Do I want to work with somebody on that or delegate that or whatever? And so I think it's just starting to map out the client journey and then create that checklist. It can be on a Google Doc or a notepad of like, okay, I'm just going to start now. And then I'm going to engage some help. Like, then I'm going to maybe hire somebody, get a gift, outsource it, help, like whatever. I can do some of it, but somebody else can do some other stuff. So I don't know if that answers exactly, but that's what I would do.
Yeah, that's great. And then on the delegation front, it's interesting. You mentioned the 15-hour-a-week client care thing, and I would just, iterate on that a bit and say, like, that is to me, a lot of people, when they think about hiring a VA or an administrator, I find that they're in a mindset where it's for defense. It's because you're busy and it's because you're drowning.
Yeah.
And that's when people, I think, look at what they pay an assistant as an expense.
Yeah.
But when you can shift some of the workload of your assistant or hire a separate person for a smaller number of hours to do the client care thing, that's actually not defense. That's offense. That's not an expense. That's an investment.
Totally.
And so in my mind, not only do I want to help you get a 10-hour-a-week VA to help you with the defense stuff, but I would love to be able to sprinkle in some of the offense stuff so that when you look at your $1,000 a month or $5,000 a month or whatever the cost is, you look at it as an investment where there's actually clearly a return on that investment as opposed to, well, now I have to work harder just to pay someone else's way. It's like, well, no. You're actually going to get a return on that.
Yeah.
And your day-to-day experience, both personally and professionally, is going to be enhanced.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
And your time and mental bandwidth is all freed up, and they can be a relationship client care manager, all that.
So we're going to have some hungry people, myself included, coming in the door here momentarily. So there's two questions I want to finish off here. I'm curious, what has been the most impactful gift you've ever received?
Received? I thought you were going to ask me what I've given or what I've seen people give. Oh, man.
Yeah, I know.
Now you've totally thrown me.
Yeah.
I want to talk about what I've given.
Okay, well, let's start there.
Okay, most impactful. Okay, so am I talking about personally what I've done in my business and what's been impactful that I've seen?
I'm just curious to see like the gift where you're like, either, if it's what you've received, it's just something that you think about all the time, or it's brought you a lot of joy. If it's a gift that you've given, if you want to be crass about it, it's like this one particular gift returned, 57 referrals.
Well, I've seen my clients have those kinds of impacts when we do surprise and delight campaigns, which I've already talked about, so I won't go there. But I can't tell you how many, like my natural default is, what can I get? Like, not what can I get them in terms of, because Cutco is like my go-to.
Yeah.
But it's like, how can I gift this person? Like, even when people, like I have a dream relationship that I want, or an office that I really want to get into. Yeah. Like, as long as there's some level of warmth there or some level, I will send, I can't tell you how many doors I've opened, access, deepened relationships, all that. But
that's a different campaign. I'm going to call that the icebreaker gift.
Oh, the icebreaker gift. Knives are sharp. Showing love with sharp things is, I tell you.
That's your love language.
Well, I remember dropping a knife off of the top RE/MAX broker owner in the world at the time, 18 years ago. He was not returning my calls. For some reason, they let me into his office with a knife, like obviously it was packaged. But I was like, can I just put this knife on his desk?
Yeah.
By surprise. And I put a little handwritten note, no strings attached, put this knife on his desk. And I think I engraved it, sharpest broker owner, like sharpest manager in town, leader in town. And 2 hours later, he hadn't returned any of my calls messages, and I'd been referred to him. He's like, calls me. And he's like, you're in.
What
you got me.
Yeah. That's why I don't return calls, emails, or texts, is because I'm hoping people will gift me, so if you're wondering why I'm ignoring you, it's because you haven't bought me anything recently. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, last question here.
I was going to go, okay, but we got to.
No.
Most impactful, okay. Thing I've ever done, I dropped a lot of money, but this is my key relationship. People would be shocked if they knew how much I spent on this, what's called an artifact mug. But let's say you have the most important relationship, or one of, in your whole career. And a potter makes these mugs. Anyway, he traces the life story of this person. So you have to get some intel if you don't know all the details of this person's life. He puts it in a video box with a video. Anyway, I sent this to one of my most important, cherished relationships. Tears, like people, and I've heard stories of other people being brought to billionaires, being brought to tears, like maybe people that are just unreachable.
Yeah.
So those are really some cool, impactful things there. But I just had to mention that. But
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. And I've done a terrible job as a host of my own show because I stopped asking this about 3 episodes ago, but I was supposed to ask it every episode. What would you do with an extra 10 hours a week if you could have it and still know your business would grow? What would you do?
Okay, wait. Say again. What would I do with an extra 10
hours a week if you could take it and still know your business would grow?
Yeah, I would go into nature more often. Like I would go, I would drive, not just walk around the block or my neighborhood, like, on my 10-minute break in the home office. I would go out to nature more, like what I'm doing this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I would
awesome.
do and go for walks and
Cool. Vonny, thank you. This has been so much fun.
Much fun.
Let's go eat some pizza.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for tuning in to Breakthrough with Coach B. If you're ready to let go in order to grow, visit bradenweecroft.com for free and paid resources to help you take the next step. Your future self will thank you. Until next time, here's to your breakthrough.